Kia ora, g'day, welcome back everybody here for part 8 of the 22 SAS selection or UKSF selection process, parachuting and badging with Big Phil Campion, former 22 SAS. So let's jump back in.
Last time then we spoke about combat survival and resistance to interrogation, and we've passed that now, and we've moved on. So, where have we moved on to? Well, you're pretty much, unless you have an absolute meltdown now, you're pretty much on your way to a Sabre squadron. But people have failed the parachuting. They've refused to jump. Not very often has it happened, but it has happened a couple of times in the past. And you used to do the parachuting after you were badged. But now, for that very reason, they do it before you're badged, because it would never do for a trooper to be stalling in the door and saying, I'm not jumping, would it? All right, so that's why they do it. So
that's interesting. Crazy to think that once you're badged that you would balk at the door or stall at the door or stop when it's time to jump out of the aircraft. So it's good. I mean, here in NZ, I've not known anything different. Same in Australia. The parachute course is one of the first things that you do on the cycle of training in NZ and Australia. So it's not done at the end. And yeah, maybe they took some lessons from 2-2 and just said, oh, okay, so they do theirs there, and maybe we'll just put ours. But since I went through in 1998, that was selection. Since I went through cycle in NZ in 1999, that was pretty much our first course that we started prepping for once we started cycle. In Australia, geez, I can't remember if it was the first course. It was early anyway. It may not have been the first course, but it was pretty early into the cycle, maybe the second or third course out of the blinking, seems like hundreds of courses, but it's not hundreds of courses. But out of the months and months worth of courses that you've got to do, it's very early on. So yeah, good that they adjust that and do that before the badging here at 2-2.
you have a rounds course to do. Now, I'd already qualified on rounds. You're straight, LLP, your normal side door parachute, hop and pop, down you go, dope on a rope, all that sort of stuff. I'd already done that. So my basic para course was done. So we got a week off, those people who'd passed it, and there was loads of paratroopers on there. In fact, most of the people on the course were airborne trained in one way or another. So a lot of people didn't do that week. I think there was the Submariner, and there was a couple of others who basically did that. So they went away and they did. Then there was a 22-foot steerable to do because you had to do a water jump. Now, I thought to myself, that's a round canopy, the 23-foot steerable. How it can't be that much different, can it? So I said I'd done that as well, and I got a weekend off and all. However, on the Monday morning when I came in and the parachute was put in front of me and I had to put it on to go and do my wet jump, I was like, what is that? What is... Oh, no. And all my mates know exactly what I've done, so they're not helping me, right? They're laughing at me. And I'm thinking to myself, I could actually fail the course on the very fact that I just completely lied about having done this parachute, and I hadn't, all right? So I'm panicking now. I didn't know how to put it on. It was a different setup completely to the LLP or the PX4, whatever it was, all right? Completely different setup. So
that's interesting hearing Big Phil talk about that. I mean, the water jumps, and yeah, we did have I think they were slightly different, but they were still pretty much the same type of shoot when we did our water jumps anyway. I don't recall us doing any water jumps in NZ during that time, during my cycle. We may have, but I don't recall doing that. We definitely did water jumps over in Australia. All the bloody buggers over there harassing me and hassling me about the sharks. Let's tease the Kiwi boy about watch out for those sharks, mate. But yeah, no, there didn't seem to be. Yeah, there was, I suppose, the steerable aspect of it, but like for my time in Australia anyway, with regards to water jumps, the chute seemed to be, like putting it on just seemed to be pretty much the same as the roundies and the static lines, the dope on a rope as he described it. So this is interesting, just sort of hearing. I wonder what that was. I wonder how different it was. Clearly, it was very different because Big Phil already had a bunch of experience in terms of jumping out and using roundies and that sort of stuff. And there's a bit of a steerable. It's not, they weren't that steerable in terms of my thoughts and perception of them anyway.
As the parachutes were laid out on the floor, the parachute jump instructor walked past me, the PJI, and I went, "Do us a favour, son." I said, "I hurt my shoulder at the weekend. Gizan put this on." So he went, "Oh, I'll do that for you, son." So he said, "Hold your arms out." So that was number one done, right? He put the parachute on for me. I was quite happy about that. The handed beam was strop, and I went and got in my stick, ready to jump out the plane. When we got onto the plane, we sat down we're sat down in our thing, and I suddenly realised we're going to be jumping out the back door, not the side doors. Again, I'd never jumped off the ramp before, and I knew it was different. When you jump out the side, you push yourself out and you force yourself into the slipstream. The back door is supposed to be slightly different. The ramp, the tailgate, whatever you want to call it, is a different deal. Again, nobody's too keen to tell me because they know I've been a bluffer, right? So I was number 2 in my stick and the first stick to leave. And I remember the guy in front of me was laughing. He's like, "You," and as we hooked up, I remember we're flying down. We're hooked up. The ramp's gone fully down. We're hooked up, ready to go. And he's in front of me. He's giving away nothing. And my hands on me strop. I'm hooked up and I'm waiting to go. And I know I've got one chance to get this right. I've got to look at what he does and do exactly the same. Red light comes on. Green light, go. He gets a tap on the shoulder. He takes 1 or 2 paces, boom, and he jumps out with his arms open. So I'm like, right, I'll do the same. 1 or 2 paces, and it is happening like this. It's like, go, go. On that go, I'm like 1 or 2 paces, boom, and I'm out, and I'm in the slipstream. And it wasn't too bad.
That's correct. I'm just smiling because of, part of it, we get this question. Actually, I'll do a video later on today or maybe tomorrow, probably today, and around ties in with some of the questions that come in from time to time. So I'll try not to take too much time on here. But you noticed and you would have heard there's a requirement and a need if you're going to look to serve in the unit to try to be reasonably quick on your feet in terms of thinking and coming up with things to try to meet the objective. So the old, hey, to the PJI, the parachute jump instructor, "Can you help me put the chute on? I hurt my shoulder on the weekend, blah, blah, blah." It may seem like, pretty benign type of things, like, "Oh, yeah, that's not really quick thinking." When you're feeling under the pump and under the pressure and thinking, "Holy crap, I'm going to get called out here for being a bluffer," as he put it. "I haven't done this. I haven't used this chute. I need to think of something quick to be able to get this thing on." Those types of things, it's hard when the questions come in. "Oh, what do I do here? What are they looking for? What are they doing?" So I'm going to do a video on that to try to unpack that. So coming back to Big Phil, the ramp is different. Like the side doors, I think I mentioned in another video. I'm just rear front, punch yourself out that side door as hard and as aggressively as you can. And then you end up just blinking, getting rattled around. The ramp jump was, we sat out like this. So you couple of steps and then you step off basically, and you like sitting in an armchair almost, and then carry on with the rest of the drill. It's pretty simple. You're not having to force yourself out the door, out like a side door exit for the parachuting. But hard case, you get, again, taking in a lot of information. He's second in his stick, getting ready to jump out. So got one chance to get it right. As I said, I'm going to watch this guy do exactly what he does and then launch myself out the door. And he does that. So that's, it's not, I suppose, it's not difficult. Like, people have seen the videos. You go out the back and people just sort of, like they're sitting on an armchair and jump out or step off the back ramp. But if you haven't done it before and you're thinking this, bloody hell, I don't want to get caught out as being a bluffer before badging, because they're pretty close. Like you said, you'd have to be a bit of a twat, I think, to stuff up by this stage of the UK SF selection process. So, there's still a bit of pressure on, eh?
I made a half-decent effort of it. All right, I got in a few twists, but when I got through the twists, pulled my canopy round, canopy's there, pulled it round, inspection, looking at, there's a hole in my canopy. I'm like, no, there's a hole in my canopy. Now, because it was a water jump, I had no reserve. So now I'm panicking. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cream in. I'm yelling, screaming like a baby. Unbeknown to me.
So that I'm guessing he's about to say unbeknown to him, like the chutes have the gaps in them. So when he's looking at, I don't know if that's what he's going to be talking about or if that's what he's about to find out as part of the steerable chute to give you a little bit more ability to shift and steer the chutes around so that you can get to where you want to. You want to be going into the wind when you land, and maybe he'll talk about that. But if he doesn't, I'll chime in with my 2 cents and stuff on there. So let's hear what he's about to say.
You're meant to have a hole in your canopy when you jump a 22-foot steerable. It's got a hole in it because how would you steer it otherwise? So all that screaming, all that did was notify the PJIs who were in a boat waiting for us that bloke don't know what he's doing, all right? So I land, all right? I hit the water, smack. I've not turned into wind because I didn't know how to. The toggles that were there, quite clearly, I didn't know what I was doing with them. I thought I was better off if I didn't touch anything and just took what was coming. So I was sort of like, I'm the only one going the wrong way. I'm the only one going twice as fast as I should be going, and I slap into the water. Boom. I bounce. I go through me rigging lines, and I land on the canopy, and I'm now sinking. So I.
Oh my goodness, this is this is crack up listening to him talking about, because I can picture that. Not that, thankfully, I didn't have any landings like that, but he's just covered off on some of the stuff that I was talking about. Yeah, it's meant to have those holes in there to help you steer. You'll see the toggle so that you can grab those and turn into wind. Oh man, okay, so he mentioned he didn't realize he was supposed to turn into wind. He saw the toggles. He thought he just wouldn't touch those and just leave them as they are. And he slapped into the water going twice as fast because obviously he didn't turn into wind, which will help slow you down as well. Going with the wind, smacking in some of the things to be, like we were told anyway on our ground training, to be careful of. And I was making sure I was taking in all this stuff, well, everything on the course, because I was like a bit of a deer in the headlights, like taking in everything. But they'd let us know, like, if you go in with the wind and you land, you slap into the water, not only will you be going faster than if you turn and come into the wind, but the potential for you to then just sort of slap, your face into the water and then be getting dragged. So if you're going with the water, if you imagine your face down, face into the water, the chute is going over you because the wind is catching it and it's dragging you that way. And now you're face down in the water, blinking rigging lines are coming over, your potential to get tangled up in that. And as he's mentioned here, so that's not too funny, but getting dragged or feeling like you're sinking, that's dangerous. You have your hook knife though, because you want to start hooking and cutting those rigging lines and anything away that you can to get free if you really have to. But that's if you don't pop your cape well as well, so popping the cape well on that strike just before the water or just as your feet land, popping the first cape well, that generally helps collapse the chute so that you don't get dragged for extended periods of time, and then it'll just sort of fall away to the side. So even if you slap in face first, going with the wind, or turning into wind so that you end up backwards, landing and then falling backwards, it's once you pop that first cape well, it's definitely safer, put it that way. But if you don't pop them and you're just screaming along in the water, or maybe not even screaming, but just getting dragged along face down, trying to get your head out to breathe, that could be panic stations for people. So I remember the instructors being very clear, very articulate, speaking about what we need to do and all that sort of stuff, making sure that we get that cape well popped, and so that we can be as safe as we can, so that you don't drown, basically. But just listening to Big Phil talking about this, and this would have been his first jump, I bet he took all the learnings and didn't let that happen again. I'm willing to bet anyway he would have taken on board all that stuff. Okay, got the toggles, crack up the people in the boat. He said he was yelling and screaming. Yeah, that would have got their attention. More than likely badged guys in the boats down the bottom.
I think to myself, right, I'm going to die here. I'm seriously going to die. So I get my knife out and I slash this canopy to pieces and cut it. Every last piece of string, ribbon, silk that I can see, I hack it to death in a frenzied attack. The boat comes over with what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then they suddenly realise he has bluffed this. And the bloke looks at me and goes, you ain't never done that before, have you? And I'm like, stopped from a panicking now, thinking I'm panicking for another reason now. I could get thrown off the course. Anyway, fair play to the PJI. He never said nothing. I completely annihilated the canopy. That might as well have sunk to the bottom of the drink for all they were concerned. That was gone. They recovered me into the boat. I went back. I got a bit of a ribbon from the lads, but nobody ever said nothing, and I wasn't thrown off the course. So then you go away and you do your steerable square shoots. They were really good fun. They're like sort of like everything's off the tailgate. You're jumping out. You do loads of clean fatigue jumps with no kit. So you're jumping all the time on this. You can steer these things and throw them around. They were really cool. That was really good fun. So I enjoyed that. And then, like I say, you did your qualifying jump with all your gear on and all that sort of stuff, and you jumped the net. And then after that week, you go back to Hereford, and now they put in, and then they just started putting in an extra week's worth of counter-terrorism training, and that was in all the black kit. So that's the really Gucci stuff. Now you've got your MP5 and your pistol, and you're cutting around in my day, it was Range Rovers, and you're jumping in and out of windows and kicking doors down and all that sort of stuff. That's like, you've just reached next level. Just reached, you know what I mean? That was brilliant. That was superb. So I really enjoyed that.
Just when he was talking about their fair play to, like you said, to those PJIs that didn't say anything, they could have. And so, you know, there are questions that come through from time to time. You know, this, that, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Do I need to do this other thing? Or is it just a case of luck? Some of the questions that have come through, I've responded to some of those, and even with some of the conversations that I've been lucky to have with people that are looking to go on selection. Like, my opinion, my view, I think luck plays a part in everything and anything that we do. I can think of times where I got very lucky on selection in NZ. I can also think of times where I got very lucky on selection in Australia. Times, if I break that right down, lucky right back to schooling days, right back to sports, right through to now, what I'm doing now, places that I've worked. I think luck plays a part in anything that we do. And also just that your mindset in terms of what it is that you're looking to do in the first place, how you're going about doing it, your preparation prior to all of that sort of stuff is all important. So yeah, I think there's an element of luck in anything that we do. And in this case, you know, fortunate, luck, blessed, whatever you want to call it, the PJIs didn't say anything about this guy here hacking to death his chute. But if you haven't done that before, and like I was trying to describe, like you would be fearing for your life because you don't want that chute to be dragging you under the water. So like I said, we'd have hook knives on us as part of the safety, another knife as well, like a bladed knife, so that you can use it in an emergency for those types of things, especially with regards to water jumps. But it's a piece of kit that soldiers will have on them anyway, a knife. And yeah, thankfully he had his. He knew where it was. He had access to it, and he was able to cut the stuff away. But full credit to those PJIs not saying anything.
And then it's like you get a long weekend. You come back on the Monday morning. The Marines or the lads who are going to go SBS have gone down to Poole for the Monday morning because they're going to get badged down there, and you're going to get badged up in Hereford. So in those days, I mean, the Marines didn't change their cap badge or nothing. It was still the same cap badge. So they go down and they come back up on a Tuesday. But you go in, you sort of like you surrender. Well, you don't surrender, but it's the last time you wear your own cap badge. And the CO comes down. And I remember the CO giving us this brief, and it was along the lines of, some of you are lucky to be here. Some of you have only just scraped by. You know, don't count your chickens before they hatch. We can soon get rid of you. Basically, you know, in a nutshell, you're all a bunch of you don't deserve to be here. And if you mess up, you're going home. Oh, and by the way, here's a beret. And it's sort of like got flung at you like that. And I'm like, oh, thanks for that. Do you know what I mean? It was insane. So that was the great ceremony of being badged. There was no ceremony whatsoever. The berry they gave me wasn't the one I'd shaped. I'd left that up in the block, but I hadn't brought it down with me because I didn't want to be presumptuous that I was going to get given a berry if I wasn't. Because at this stage they could still stand up failure. And so I literally walked back to the block with my stable belt on, with no berry on my head because this thing looked like a helipad in itself. And the next time I put my berry on was, I don't even know. Probably Remembrance Sunday or something like that was the next time I wore the berry. And I went straight onto the counter-terrorism team. And the rest, they shall say, is history. Well, that was selection for you. My selection, anyway. Like I say, nowadays it's probably a little bit different. As I say, it's an evolving animal, is the regiment. So things change. But that was how it was done in my day. Más o menos, more or less, as they say in Spanish. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did, Big Phil. Thank you very much, brother. Pretty a lot of funny stuff there, man. This guy, I think I would just be cracking up if I was sitting down with him. People have mentioned, "Oh, it'd be good to see you having a chat or interview or whatever together." Yeah, it'd be a huge honor for me anyway to share some time and space with Big Phil if that ever happens one day. But coming back to what he was talking about, there was no badging ceremony, at least not for his one. And he's right, like right at the 11th hour, it can still be like, nah, you're not getting badged, not part of it. So pretty interesting in terms of the comments from the CEO and what they said to him and his group. And I know from the NZ one, because I stood on the sideline when that happened, had to help place out the chairs because there were guys from my cohort that had their family members or people that they wanted to come and attend their badging ceremony come there. And so setting up the chairs and then packing away the chairs after, standing on the sideline behind the family members that were there, sitting, watching their family members who had earned their beret go up and receive it in an actual badging ceremony. So they were marched on, they were wearing still their core belts and their beret for their parent units that they'd come from. And all the badge guys were directly opposite, all lined up, 3 ranks facing this way. Guests were sitting down on chairs in front of me, like I was sitting just behind them, along with a couple of other guys that were getting ready for the reinforcement cycle the following year, and facing in. And then I forget who it was in the middle there, but the CEO and RSM and likely any other of the senior leadership for the regiment would have been there facing the guys when they come onto their little within the compound. And yeah, it was, for me, like the ceremony itself was awesome. It was cool to see them have their names read out. They'd go up one by one. They had already shaped the berets and handed them in. So I remember we had to shape them day before, night before, thereabouts. Put a piece of masking tape with your name and that in it, and then we handed them back in. That was all taken care of so that they knew, whose beret they were going to be handing out when they had their order. They had the order in terms of how they marched on to the parade ground. It was just one rank. There wasn't, pretty sure it was just one rank. There wasn't 2 ranks, definitely not 3 ranks. And then they just read out each name, and then they went up, did their thing, punch the foot in, salute, hand down, then they get the beret, you take off the other one. So it was a nice, from my view, watching it looked like a cool ceremony for the guys to go through. Once they got through all of that, they were standing there, and then there was I don't remember the exact details, but I remember the guys are still standing there, and then all the badge guys that were already in the unit, or those that were there anyway that day, they then walked through in front and just shook all the guys that had just been badged, shook their hands and walked through. And it was awesome to see them have that and to get that acknowledgement after everything that they've been through. It's like, whoa, you can talk to these guys now. Up until then, like you don't talk to them. Even then, like once you're badged, you're still on a probationary type period. Like Big Phil was saying, you could still be, you're not meeting the standard, whatever. Don't think you're a good fit, even though you got badged. Okay, see you later, bro. Car keats, or see you later. So seeing that happen, it's probably it would have felt like a bit of a relief for them. They can actually, because some of the guys would have known guys that were already badged, but it's just the way it is. Like you don't get to talk to them. You don't, you are bottom of the barrel. So you don't talk to any of the badged operators. They may, like if you've got close mates, they may come and catch up with you in the barracks, sort of after knock-off time while you're on cycle. But even then, I think that was frowned upon. From what I understood, they were still needed to not be seen anyway, overtly, to be interacting with those of us on the cycle. So that was my view anyway, because I know a few of the guys that I was on cycle with had some good friends that were already badged, but they were very careful about keeping their distance from us as a cycle. So that was cool to see, but it was also, for me, it was heartbreaking, Like I felt really, really gutted. I was like, man, I should be standing there too. But it wasn't to be. But seeing the guys receive their hard-earned beret and core belt, the sky blue belt, I was really happy for them. I was just, like I said, I was just gutted and sad and still sulking for myself, personally. But hey, you do the crime, you do the time, So that's all in the past, and it's been awesome to get an insight from Big Phil. As far, man, I've had some really good belly laughs listening to Phil in the last, I think, 3 sessions now, maybe even more than that. But he's a cracker. So the way he talks, the recalling of the experiences, like that parachuting one was blinking. That would have been hectic and hard case. As you get good at it, I think I might have mentioned this in another video. Maybe I haven't. But as you get good at the water jumps anyway, you can start to use that to your advantage, especially if you steer into the wind well. On our course, we didn't have the boats come to us. Like, we had to then make our way, put your fins on, especially in your kit if you needed to, then put your fins on and then kick your way to the boat. Or if the boat went out and then you've got to pop the gas so that it then inflates, like you've got to make your way to the boat to then do that. It then inflates and then get all your stuff in, and then you can zip around and pick up your mates. But up until then, like if you can get pretty good with your water jumps and steering and going into wind, you can actually surf your way a bit closer to the boat. And I was able to do that a few times, which was good. You still got to be careful though, because you're supposed to, when you're surfing, it means that you haven't popped the first cape well. So when your feet touch the water, you're supposed to then pop the cape well, because you're basically in the water now, and then that chute will collapse nicely for you. But if you're going to surf, well, then you don't pop the cape well, but you need to be confident that you know what you're doing. So I'm glad that I got a bit of practice with the water jumps over there in Australia, and managed to eyeball and pick up a few things, which I was then able to use later on down the track, which was really helpful. In terms of being in the squadron when we do water jumps, I always preferred water jumps to land jumps with regards to the use of roundies and static lines anyway. So if there was ever water jumps, I'm like, yep, I'll gladly do those. Blinking, never mind the roundies and spudding into the ground hard. But good memories, really good memories. Appreciate you, Big Phil. Thank you for going through and giving such a awesome review in terms of what your selection was like. I know it's very helpful for those that are aspiring to join 2-2, the founding fathers of the Special Air Service. So grateful for that. Hopefully you got something out of this reaction. If not, a bit of a laugh along the way in terms of listening to Big Phil, or maybe my reaction to the way Big Phil speaks. But appreciate you being here if you've stuck around this long. Thank you for your time, kind support and encouragement. I sincerely, really do appreciate it. Any challenges, struggles, trials that you may be going through, keep turning up. Tomorrow's another day. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Stay consistent, stay disciplined, stay in the fight. The sun will shine again. There are better days ahead, and there is a light at the end of that long, dark and dreary tunnel, even though it may not seem like it. So remember, go always a little further. Who dares wins. And as always, a big man away from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect and appreciation for you all, as well as my gratitude.